All right, so let's just go over some basic questions. How long have you been playing now?
22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
And what got you into guitar?
Oh God, I'd have to say probably George Lynch, Randy Rhoads, players of that era, and just the fact that I would see these guys, in the mid late '80s up there playing, they look like gods to me. I'm like, man, if I could just do that, that would be amazing. I wouldn't be such a loser. So, well, here I am, 22 years later. Still a loser, but I know a little bit more about guitar than I did when I was, 14.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I listen to a lot of the same guys myself.
Yeah.
So when did you decide that you really wanted to get serious about it and get some kind of education? I mean, did you start off with some local guitar lessons and then go on to a music school, or what was the process?
Yeah, basically, my mom was a violin teacher, so she was always pushing for me to have lessons, learn theory and stuff. I was just like, I just want to play metal.
Right.
My thing was, I want one lesson to show me how to use my amp so I can make it to sound good, and that's it. And I had a bunch of different guitar teachers early on. First couple of guys were not to my liking so much, but I finally found some good teachers, and I learned quite a bit of things about the guitar. Obviously, with 3-note per string scales and all my chords theory and everything. I went on to music school right after high school and did classical guitar, studied some jazz stuff. Left school for a little bit after getting my associate's degree to just work on my own thing. I had a band at the time, mid '90s, and I had delusions of grandeur. I figured we'd, make it big time.
Right.
Playing to 8 people on a Wednesday night wasn't exactly good. So I went back to school and completed my bachelor's degree in music composition, and I got that in 2001.
Right.
And then this band had started in '99, so it kind of correlated nicely. The year after I graduated, we started touring. So I've been doing this, and I'd like to get back to school at some point, but I'm having too much fun right now.
Yeah. So did you go to a specific music school, or was it just a college in the area?
Yeah, I went to like a community college called Holyoke Community College, which has a pretty decent program. Some good teachers there, guys from Berkeley, and my classical teacher was studied under Segovia for a while.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
some legit dudes for
Yeah.
a small place. Then I went to a place called Westfield State College, and some of the same teachers was in the same area. Just that the first school I went to was only associate's degree program, so
Right.
I was done with that. So I was very fortunate to have affordable schooling with good teachers in kind of a small environment. I just couldn't afford Berkeley or Juilliard,
Sure.
or I don't think they'd have me anyway. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling, man. I would have given anything to go to GIT when I was a kid.
yeah,
It would have been awesome.
that too.
Yeah.
Paul Gilbert commercials.
Yeah, you know it, man. That's awesome. So, what about specific guitar influences?
Okay. I would say, like, when I first started playing, I actually hated lead guitar, believe it or not.
Wow.
Because I think I was listening to a lot of, like, I guess, cock rock, Guns N' Roses, Poison, and, you're hearing these solos that are like, I'm like, that's just making my ears hurt, man. And I just didn't like, I liked, heavy stuff. Like Metallica. I was like, that's cool. That's what I want my guitar to sound like.
Yeah.
Just, angry 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Then after about a year, I was, listening to, a lot of the heavier metal stuff. And then I discovered a player who's Andy LaRocque from King Diamond.
Yep.
And I remember listening to the solo, and it's like very melodically put together. It was like he was telling a story. And I'd never heard a player like that before. I hadn't really listened to Yngwie or anything. He has an Yngwie-ish type style, but his phrasing would grab me, and I was like, wow, I can follow this lead. It just drew me in, and I'd look for players of that similar ilk. I found Alex Skolnick and Marty Friedman, Jeff Waters from Annihilator. So I started listening to some really great lead players, diverse lead players, and just my ears started to say, oh, all these notes aren't so bad. Just
Right.
it doesn't have to be so high and annoying all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember I did my first recording. We had a band called Black Friday.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was like 15, and my bass player, he paid for the recording, like $20 an hour at the time. And we were terrible, absolutely terrible. And we were doing the recording, and I'm playing like Kerry King style solos, and it sounds like eggs being thrown at a wall.
Right.
And
Real melodic stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And my teacher at the time was very like, "Oh, you're so good," blah blah blah. And I heard some dude talking. He's like, dude, you're freaking terrible. And it was hearing that for the first time that I was like, oh my God, I can't just wing it. I gotta really, really learn what's going on here, because sure, the teacher might be like, oh yeah, you're all good and stuff, but that's not who's really, listening, Yeah. So I would say, like, beginning in 1990, I remember getting the Guitar World 10-hour Steve Vai guitar workout, the first one. And I sat there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna practice 3 hours a day, I'm gonna learn all my scales, apply them, no more of this, just half-assed winging it stuff.
Right.
And I think from that point on, I became a student of the guitar rather than something to let out my aggression.
Right.
Sure, I practiced, but I think that the way I thought about it, I said, okay, I want to go to school for this. I'm taking this seriously. This is not just a toy.
Right.
And I think a lot of players go through that phase, but some for longer than others, and some people right away they're like, okay, study. But
Right.
for me, it took me about a year and a half to really understand that, okay, this is the way it's got to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Now, is it true that you do all your own notation for your books, and then you just submit it?
That is correct. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, and that's pretty rare. This dude's got it going on. Absolutely.
Yep. That's it. Just it's something that I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
I've seen so many tab books and they're freaking wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it's an embarrassing reflection upon the band, because it's like you're releasing something with your name on it, and they're like, wow, this isn't how it goes.
Yeah.